Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I am joined by a special guest, Sophia Demas. Sophia has had 3 separate careers. She had no plans of getting married or having children or anything like that, even writing a book. But she is now an author. She is married. She has kids. And we're going to be talking about her memoir, The Divine Language of Coincidence, where she talks about the things that happened in her life. She thought they were coincidences, but they were not. And she is better for them. And we're going to be talking to her about her memoir. So, Sophia, thank you so much for joining me today. Sophia Demas.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I appreciate having you on. Why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
You did it pretty well. I grew up in a I'm Greek American, and so my childhood was kind of like my big fat Greek wedding, and then I kind of went along with a program. I was very artistic, and so my mother felt that if you're a woman and you're artistic, the only possible thing you can do is teach. So she went along with the program. And when I entered college, I was in the art education program. And then my senior year, when I had 2 more terms and one term and my student teaching. And I had this dream. And in the dream, the postman comes, rings the doorbell, and hands me my teaching license. And I look at it and I go, I don't want to teach. And so I marched over to the registrar's office and changed my major to art history because I decided I wanted to be an archaeologist. So, that didn't go over very well with my parents. Then I got a scholarship and studied archaeology and art history in Italy. And when I was there, one of my roommates, we would stay up all night, talking philosophy, smoking Gaulois cigarettes. And he said to me, if you could be with anybody dead or alive for half an hour, who would it be? And I don't know what I said, and it doesn't even matter. And I said, well, who would you be with for half an hour? And he goes, Buckminster Fuller. And I thought, okay, I knew that this man had invented the geodesic dome, but why would you? And I said, word, I'm okay, why? And he gets up and he brings me this thin little book called No Secondhand God. And it was a poem. The whole book was a poem. And I just thought it was the most brilliant thing I've ever read. So I was researching him, and it turns out that he was a modern day Leonardo da Vinci, philosopher, engineer, and I just couldn't get enough of this man. And when I returned to the U of O, University of Oregon, I had made up my mind. I wanted to be an architect. And I didn't know how to break it to my parents, but I knew that is exactly what I wanted to do. So my friend, Mark, who was president of the student union, comes over one day and says, guess who's coming to lecture on Tuesday? I said, Buckminster Fuller. He goes, would you like to come and pick him up at the airport with me? And to me, this is like going to pick up, I don't know, I can't even imagine. I mean, this is my idol. So there were students who were giving him $100 to ride with him. So that was the start of something completely new for me. He came with his wife, and we just hit it off. And long story short, whole story's in the book. when I graduated from architecture, he asked me to work with him. And this is like, again, I can't even fathom your absolute idol asking you to work with them. So it was just a series of such amazing coincidences that brought me to this man or brought him to me. So that's when I started out in architecture. I came to Philadelphia from Portland, Oregon to work with him, and it became my new home.
Well, tell us about how you came up with the title of your book.
The original title was Sound, Light, and Vibration, because to me that is consciousness. Everything is one. Everything is consciousness exists in all realms. I went to a writer's retreat, and the person who ran the retreat he asked me, why have you titled the book Sound, Light, and Vibration? And explained exactly what I said to you. And he says, what's your book about? And I said, well, it's about all the miracles that happened in my life since I was 19 years old. And I feel that the universe speaks to us through coincidence, and it's our job to take action. Basically, that's the key to the whole book. And he said, well, why don't you call it the divine language of coincidence? And I thought, that's brilliant. So I did.
That's pretty interesting. So, you had 3 careers and then you decided to write a book. So how were you able to find the writing process since you didn't really seem to have any experience before in writing a book?
Well, Curtis, that's how the universe works. Let me just preface something by saying that God gave us free will, okay? And so we decide what we want to do. But I have to tell you from my experience, the universe knows better than we do what is the best for us. So, as I said, I didn't want to get married, and I was very successful at that until I was 45. And I didn't want children. I was too busy with my careers, and I was not going to write a book, which an astrologer told me that I should write a book about 15 years ago. And then about 12 years ago, 1 year before I began writing the book, I coincidentally got together with a medium, something I had no desire doing. And she told me I was going to write a book. And I just told her that flat out. She was world renowned. And I said, no, absolutely not. I have nothing to say. But also, I'm a people person, and I'm not going to sequester myself somewhere and write a book. I'm just not going to do that. And she just patiently let me rant. And then she says, Spirit says, when she's ready, there are many hands to help her and many spirits here to help her and many hands on earth. And that's the way it went down. So I would tell people my miracles and the coincidences, and they would say, oh, Sophia, these things only happen to you, which I found a little annoying because I'm not a saint. I'm not a guru. I'm just an ordinary person. And I just didn't, that for some reason that was telling me that I was special, but I knew I was not special. So 11 years ago, I reconnected with an old childhood friend, and I told her my most recent miracle. And she goes, oh, these things only happen to you. And something clicked. I thought, the number of miracles and coincidences I can't ignore. It's just too vast. So I started meditating on it. And what I came to see is that coincidences are different than miracles, okay? Coincidences happen to everyone. And I believe this is God's language, putting a little hint in front of us. So what are we going to do? Okay, we can say, oh, wow, that was a coincidence, and move on. Or call that person that you just thought of and you saw their name on TV, or you take action. And once I went back and just meditated on all of these amazing things that have happened to me, I see how it happened. I took action. So, and it all fell together. It was like, I've got to share this. I've got to let people know this is how everyone can have miracles. And I truly, truly believe that.
Well, how do you feel like your three careers influence your book?
Well, I don't know about if they influenced my book, but I sure write about them because as the memoir is my spiritual journey, my careers also each career brought me to a different level. So when I was in architecture school, all I wanted to do was design the beautiful building. That was my goal. But after working with Buckminster Fuller, who solved problems, he saw that there was a shelter problem in the world and created these fantastic schemes. Not very many things were actually done because it was more philosophical. And I ended up my architecture career designing biotechnology laboratories because I felt like I was now solving problems. It was very interesting, but it was so far from beauty that I thought about taking a leave of absence. They wanted me to manage my projects, and I just wanted to design. And so a friend was designing a clothing store that this woman was going to rent beautiful, expensive gowns, evening gowns. And he asked me to finish the project because he got this big job. And I started working there. And then that catapulted me to having my own couture business. And I wanted themselves. But then designing for a beautiful woman became boring. It was the problem figure. So my assistants and I designed and made 40 absolutely gorgeous evening dresses, gowns for pregnant women, and we would rent them. And this got wind of the newspaper nationally, and it kind of put me on the map. And then I started a line for super large women. And then it was more like, wait a second, there's something else than clothes that should make a person feel good. And I put my finger on self-esteem. So I designed a 12 workshop program, which was piloted in the Philadelphia prison system to enhance self-esteem in incarcerated women. The commissioner loved it, but the board would not give me any money. So I did the program for different groups of at-risk women, like ex-trafficked women, ex-homeless women, women in recovery. And that I saw that I was onto something. So I went back to school. And when I was 50, I graduated with my master's in counseling psychology. So that brought me to my third career.
So tell us about the people that influenced you throughout your journey.
Oh, so many. On my website, which is sophiademas.com, I have a page. I call it My Influencers. And there's 8 people that I've had personal contact with that have touched me, have made me think. So, one of them is Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter. I have, great intellects, great hearts.
So tell us the difference between coincidence and miracles.
So coincidences are to be listened to. And once you take action, then the miracle occurs. And I can give you an example.
Go right ahead.
Okay. So, this is something, light and a little entertaining. But so when I was getting married, we decided to get married on 4th of July, and the wedding was going to be 4th of October. So wasn't giving us a long time to plan the kind of wedding I wanted. So two things occurred that will illustrate what I mean. Okay, one, I call my friend Anne, and a man answers that's not her husband. And so I said, is Anne there? And this person seems to recognize my voice and goes, Sophia, it's Jerry. It's Jerry. You called me. I went, Jerry? He goes, Jerry Panelides, you called me. And I went, Jerry. He goes, look, I can't talk, late for a meeting. Just got out of the shower. Can I call you later? I said, promise me you will call me. Promise me. And he promised. And I hung up and I thought, I had asked him, I said, what is your phone number? And he gave me a number that was, the last digit was off. So what is the chances of dialing a number and getting somebody else that you know? And I would have never recognized his voice. And I only knew him socially. And I could not believe it. And at that point, we had not found a venue for our wedding. We were looking, and some of them were all taken. And then I got a call back from the Mummer Museum, and they said they had a cancellation. And that was pretty expensive. So Jerry calls me that afternoon, and I said, Jerry, I mean, this is incredible. I mean, this is beyond coincidence. I mean, this is just amazing. So we started talking. I told him that I'm getting married. And coincidentally, for about 3 years, he owned the notable Barclay Hotel on Rittenhouse Square. And he offered to give me the ballroom to have my wedding for free and the presidential suite for 2 nights. So how easy would it have been for me to say, oh, Jerry, you don't have to call me back. This was just wild. Just let it go. And then guess what? It remains a coincidence. But I made him call me. We talked, and I got that ballroom for free. The other thing that happened was I get a call from a young woman, and she said, are you Sophia Demas? And I said, yes. And she said, I think I found your driver's license in Rittenhouse Square. And I went and checked my pocket, and because in the winter, I don't like to carry bags. And lo and behold, my driver's license is missing. And she said, I said, well, thank you. That's so wonderful. And she said, well, where should I leave it? And she lived 2 blocks away. And I said, just, put it in my mail slot. And she put it in my mail slot with a lovely note. And then, and how I was from Oregon. My driver's license was from Oregon, and she and her boyfriend would go every year to Oregon, and how much she loved it. End of story. But it was not the end of the story. 2 months later, I get a call in the studio, and it is the same woman. And she says to me, this is Lisa Marie. I'm the woman who found your driver's license a couple of months ago. And I said, yeah. She goes, I know this is going to sound really strange, but I just found your Mac card. I said, what? She said, I went to use the Mac machine, and it says, do you want another transaction? I said, no. And out pops your Mac card. Well, I couldn't let that go. I said, Lisa Marie, you've got to come to my studio. Would you come tomorrow? And she said, yes. And I had soap from Oregon, and we started talking, and she happened to be a concert violinist, this beautiful young woman. So, we were talking, and then, we parted. And a month before the wedding, it was right there, that 3-month period. We were trying to figure out the music. And I'm walking down the street, and she's jogging towards me. And she stops, and she goes, hi. And I went, hi. She goes, and somehow it was like, let's have coffee. And she got the classical guitarist that played in like the only 4-star restaurant in Philadelphia, Le Bec Fen. And together they played my favorite Concerto Aranjuez at my wedding for our wedding present. So what do you think? Which one do you think is stranger?
I think it's the second one because, it's one thing to not know where you're going to have your wedding, but to have your favorite song played by somebody you didn't expect.
But what about the telephone number that was off one digit?
And then, that was pretty coincidental too, but I like the favorite song being played.
Well, I'll tell you, I ask people and it's 50-50. 50% think one is stranger than the other. So, but that, I wanted to tell you about these coincidences because how easy it would have been to just let both of them go. I mean, when she said, this is really strange, I found your card. And I could just say, oh, that is so wild. What a coincidence. Just put it through my slot. Just put it through my slot. No, it was so jarring. I had to meet her. That is where you take action. So that is woven throughout the book.
Speaking of your book, what do you want listeners and readers to take away from your book once they read it?
Well, I think that one can't help but start thinking about the twists and turns in their lives and what precipitated it. What made them choose this instead of that? Did they listen to the clue? And then I believe that many people will see moments in their lives that were crucial, much more crucial than if they had not read the book. And also to feel that miracles can happen to anyone. If they take action, if they listen, they're aware, listen to their gut. And the whole thing, Curtis, just snowballs. It's like the more you listen to your gut and you take action and then you get something beneficial, the more you trust your gut. So the more you trust your gut, and the gut will tell you more about which path to take.
Well, we have SophiaDemas.com. You have any social media links or anything like that people can stay connected with you?
Sure. I mean, if they go on my website, they can click through, they can get on social media through my website.
Are you working on any upcoming projects that people need to know about?
I am. Well, when I first decided to write the book, I sat down and I listed all the coincidences and all the miracles. And they were just too many to cram into one book. So I plucked out all the ones that had to do with death. And so the second book, which is at the publishers, and it just got edited, the title of that book is Consciousness Beyond Death, True Stories of Signs, Messages, and Timing. And I will tell you, I am so excited about it because it is very, very hopeful. There is no question. There's no question that death is just shedding the body, that we are aware and able to communicate as we are now. It's just the body is gone. So I'm very, very excited about the second book.
All right. Give us some final thoughts briefly before we close it out. Anything maybe we didn't touch on that you want to talk about, or just some final thoughts for the listeners?
Well, one thing in this book, by the way, I just found out that it won Gold Award, the Reader's Favorite Gold Award for the category of spirituality last year. And that was completely by coincidence. But another story that winds through the book is my relationship with my husband. And I am very candid with it. And it resonates with a lot of people because I found out that I had married a rager and I left him. And Okay. And that was my will. I mean, I never wanted to see this jerk again. And 3 amazing coincidences happened within 2 months that brought us back together. And that was in 2009. And he has never raged since. And I am with my ideal companion, and I have never been happier. And I wish your listeners true happiness too.
I do as well, and I also wish my listeners would go visit SophiaDemas.com, check out her book and everything that she's up to, and get the book and support her. Also, I wish my listeners would follow, rate, review, and share this episode to as many people as possible. And Android listeners, I wish you would go to the Google Play Store and download the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast app. Sophia, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. It was a real pleasure.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.